Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. It's Rockwell's coming at you with the weekly comic book roundup. And we're going to get things started with this week's X-Men titles and this week's Spider-Man titles. So we'll kick things off with House of X, number 2. So, where we left off in House of X number 1. Charles Xavier had offered the world 3 miracle drugs, so long as, the countries of the world acknowledged Krakoa as a sovereign mutant state and let them alone. And in Powers of X, we had a few things going on. Most notably, young Charles Xavier was approached by a young woman, presumably Moira McTaggart, at a fair. So, as per the norm, we begin with a quote. "If you can find it in you to survive, if you are worthy, then I will make you into something more than them, something eternal." This is accredited to Apocalypse, which makes perfect sense. So we begin going through the life of Moira. How she quickly fell ill. She suddenly fell ill at 13, and the next day was fine. And she would marry, become a teacher, have 3 children. Those children would in turn have 8 kids of their own, and then she died, and then was reborn, fully sentient in utero, with a complete recollection of her prior life. This would lead to her parents throwing around the word special, namely special. This because she was something new, something that few in the world had seen. Moira was a mutant. Now I'm just going to say it right now, that right there is a huge upturning of everything. Moira McTaggart, mutant. But that now makes perfect sense as to why the legacy virus got her. So we get 2 pages about her history, which we'll go into greater on Monday. Then it continues that she thought that this was more of a curse than anything. Because meeting the love of your life, already knowing every flaw they possess, along with the knowledge that they will never change, that pretty much destroys her for recreating her first life. Familiarity breeds contempt, and so no family for Moira, no children playing in the yard. And then she saw Xavier publicly outing himself, and so she realized she was a mutant, got on a plane, which crashed, leading to her death. Next time, she dove into a life of science, started realizing her areas of interest to focus on anthropology and genetics, and actually sought out Xavier when they were both at Oxford, knowing that he was a mutant. And she decided in the end that Xavier wasn't the solution to anything. And he was suffering from a disease, mutation, and that she would cure said disease, which she does. And she's promptly attacked by Mystique, Destiny, and their Brotherhood of Mutants. Destiny explains to her that she's a, a, she doesn't exist in the future. Basically, she's a black. Oh, how will it? I can see the world bending around her, the eddies of change rippling out, but she is just an absence, a hole where there shouldn't be one. And it's explained that Moira has. This is not a constant cycle for Moira. This will not be an internal cycle for Moira. There's a total of maybe 10 or 11 to go. And so Destiny then has Pyro slowly incinerate Moira. So she became closer to Charles. She gave Charles a second look. And so the two of them, they stayed together. The Gifted Years, the original 5, then the all new, all different years, the Hate and the Fear, Lost Decade. We see the Phoenix 5 standing in front of the Avengers until the very end when Sentinels came for the world. They tried again. This time, however, Moira left home, ran away from home at the age of 13, sought out Xavier, and they made their own he got a legion of mutants and built a city full of man's evolutionary betters. And once again, the Sentinels arrived. Next time around, Moira decided, okay, fine. I'll take out I'll kill the creator of the Sentinel and his entire line. Just because killing the creator of one thing just leads to somebody else creating it. And next, she goes to Magneto. And Magneto is defeated by a combination of the X-Men and the Avengers. Next, she sides with Apocalypse. Who decided that if the humans wanted a war, if their machines did, then Apocalypse would give them one without end. And once again, back to the bench from Powers of 10. And we get another quote: "I am here. I've always been here." A credit to Moira X. Now we get, and there's also a breakdown for a few pages of her various timelines. Which, this is going to be very interesting to really break down. And that is the end of the issue. Next, hello, old friend. Then, oh, crap. Then, this is what you do. Okay, so we just had everything we knew about Mortimer McTaggart. Long time, one of the most celebrated allies of the X-Men, thrown on his head. Okay then. That, even when we were just flipping through it a second time, wow. Okay. Anyway, moving on, we've got Dead Man Logan number 10. Where we left off, Logan, Danny, and Bruce were at Forge's compound, and it was just it was attacked at the end of the last issue by Sabretooth's forces. So, at Forge's compound in the Badlands, Forge's wife get in their mechs and go after them. The new Ant-Man is trying to get involved in the attack. And Speedball is kind of wondering what's going on. Apparently, from what Wolverine can tell, all of these are clones of Sabretooth. Danny goes to join the battle, leaving Bruce to it by himself. He's like, hey, stay here. You're not at 100%. Everything will be fine. But Sabretooth and his goons show up. And, hit Bruce with a trank dart. And once again, Logan goes over just what it was he did to Sabretooth. And it's theorized by Forge that maybe all Wolverine did by doing that was create 1,000 Sabretooth seedlings. But it's all a distraction to get Bruce, which they already do. However, Sabretooth's working for someone. But who? Forge basically says, tells Logan and Danny to get out of there, saying that he's basically gone. And Seaball's free from his prison. Dwight ends up on the battlefield, but does get injured. Forge brings him back to the med lab. Gets back to his mech just in time for Robbie to say goodbye to his wife, and then for Robbie to explode. Two more issues to go. And moving on to Major X, number 0. So, we get the promotion. We start off with the promotion of Alexander Nathaniel Summers to the rank of Major, flanked by Lieutenant X, Commander X, Captain X, General X, and Sergeant X. And he's presented with the Sword of X. We then get the story of how the Sword of X came to be. Yeah, basically, one day Wolverine was set upon by by Deadpool and a bunch of Watchtower thugs: Pigskin, Vance Rebus, Deadeye Dick, Mega Max, Reckless Eric, and Mini Max. This is apparently after the 1999 Wolverine Annual. But the fight, basically Wolverine gets tranked up with enough sedative to drop a T-Rex. It looks like it cuts to a bar where Wolverine is betrayed. It turns out that people running the bar are a couple of hitters, and they're going after the price of Wolverine's head. But yeah, Logan gets back to fighting the Watchtowers always when they show up, and then is brought before. Oh God, what is this asshole name? The Administrator. We also find out that Deadpool took this job simply to fix the damage done to Siren's vocal cords way back in X-Force 91. Anyways, Wolverine is... Turns out that the Administrator's been bleeding Wolverine out. Presumably, in part, that's kind of how Siren's better. And, well, Wolverine gets rescued by apparently the son of the Administrator and some friends of his. And they fight their way through, catching up with Deadpool. And it's kind of a, hey, look, it's decided that, you know, Deadpool's heart was in the right place, and it was something that was, so he gets a pass. Well, Siren gets let loose, and she basically tells Wolverine, hey, this, at least right now, if you're going to ask me to pick between you and Deadpool, I'm siding with Deadpool. But later on, Commander X would end up in a watchtower, or an abandoned watchtower facility, and find the remains of an adamantium skeleton, which, of course, would turn out to be Wolverine's. So the adamantium got melted down and turned into the Sword of X, which is now presented to Major X. And so the general, the captain, the commander, the lieutenant, and the sergeant go off onto their own adventures, leaving Major X in charge of defending the existence and the essential. And that is really it. There's an interview with Rob Liefeld, some sketches from some character sketches, also some sketches from throughout the series. So yeah, that's Major X #0. Alrighty. And now we've got ourselves a it's much leftover, but well, something about leftover from last month. Black Cat #2. So, where we left off with Black Cat, she and her crew had hit Frick Collections and had managed to walk away with a masterwork of art from there. The people who didn't catch them were the NYPD, the first head of security, Sonny Ocampo, Grand Dame of the New York Thieves Guild, Odessa Drake, Sun, oh, and Sundry Ninja employed by the guild. At their hideout, Black Fox, who trained Black Cat, and as well as her late father, walked in and brought a proposition with him. And it turns out that so as things go, the proposition is not as lightly is very, very, very lightly touched upon. It's a scavenger hunt of sorts, though. And they've got to get, and the first hit involves magic, so they've got to get themselves a Merlin. So we get a breakdown of lingo. You want to persuade someone? You get some muscle, real tough nut. You want to crack a security mainframe? You get a hacker, some console cowboy. You want to mess with magic stuff? You get a Merlin. This Merlin, her Merlin in this case, is Xander the Merciless. Well, it turns out that they are there to rob Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. We get a flashback to the first meeting between Black Cat and the Fox. He bails her out of prison and explains that he's there to take her on as a student. In part because he teach her father. So, Xander the Merciless, Black Cat, and her crew managed to get into the stranger's house. We also get a quick segue with catching up with Sonny Ocampo, who is being recruited by Odessa Drake. And Black Cat and her crew interact with various things in the stranger's house, including a pair of snakes that try to chat up Black Cat, because of course. Anyways, so the job turns out that Miss Drake has a job offer though for Sonny Ocampo. And what it boils down to is she wants to set him loose on Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. We see Felicia and her crew make it through various points of the sanctum. They finally get to Trophy Room C, where they find exactly what they're looking for. The original deed to the island of Manhattan. At the same time, however, Xander has found what he's looking for. The Star Stone, which Strange took from him. But with it back, he is now the master of the 16 sorceries of the creators, Lord of the Star Stone. We also get a brief interlude with Felicia and her cats finding going after a rat, only to have it scooped up by Felicia and tossed out the window. Because, well, it did kind of look like a sick critter. After all, it does appear to be a carnageized rat. Much like the one seen in Captain Marvel's apartment. Interesting. Moving on now to Black Cat number 3. Why are we getting 2 issues of Black Cat this week? Because I finally managed to pick up last month's this week, and on account of some were being put back on the shelf at the shop. So So, Bats, the ghost dog, is awoken by various noises. He's none too happy about. He presumes the strange is trying to move furniture around in the middle of the night, and he comes upon Black Cat and her crew fighting Xander, and immediately mistakes Black Cat for Silver Sable. And well, hey, she's gonna go for it. Go with it. Event. We also get more flashbacks with Felicia and White Fox, including the idea that there will be points when she will meet someone or something that cannot be charmed with her beauty or beat down with her brass knuckles. Now, when that happens, the best thing to do is run and make that someone or something, someone or something else's problem. Words, they're a thing. Which is exactly what she does. Oh, the problem that Xander was the someone or something else that was turned on Xander makes short work of. However, turns out that one way to look at magic is willful manipulation of local probability fields. And probability is simply a $5 word for luck. As we all know, Black Cat is nothing but bad luck. And so, they manage to escape, leaving Xander for Doctor Strange. And meet back up with Gray Fox. And move on to the next destination for the scavenger hunt. Yancey Street. There's a brief epilogue wherein Doctor Strange returns and is rather mortified about the state of his home. And that is where the issue comes to its end. And now we have the beginning of Marvel's newest event, a more localized event than War of the Realms. That event being Absolute Carnage. So for those who may be unaware, Carnage, well, okay, first off, once upon a time, Spider-Man found himself a black costume in space. Turns out that black costume was a symbiotic being and was trying to bond with him. Well, he managed to get rid of it and imprison it in the Baxter building. And then it got loose and tried once again to bond with him. Well, he managed to get rid of it once again, and the costume came upon Eddie Brock, a disgraced reporter who blamed Spider-Man for said disgrace. Well, excuse me. Eventually, Brock would become something of an anti-hero. Yes, he would fight with Spider-Man quite a bit, but he also fought bad guys too. However, at one point during an incarceration early in his career, the symbiote broke Eddie out and left something behind, which Eddie's cellmate, a serial killer by the name of Cletus Cassidy, found. That something was its offspring, and thus Carnage was born. Carnage had the same powers as Venom, which means he also had Spider-Man's powers, and he also had the imagination of Cletus Cassidy. So we begin with Chapter 1, The Bleeding King. Okay, so a quick breakdown. A long time ago, there was a god named Null. He was here before anything else, ruled over endless creation that was pre-creation. the Abyss. He's the one who created the symbiotes. He was their god, basically. And so Null waged war across the cosmos, killing everything living and bright. Everything that threatened an infinite black kingdom. But eventually the symbiotes rose up against him, and now he's caged up inside what most people thought was the planet of the symbiotes. It's really just billions of symbiotes forming a cage around Null. And right now he's sleeping, imprisoned on the planet, in the void. And so, but it turns out, every time a symbiote bonds with someone, it doesn't leave the host as they found them. There's a slight piece behind, wrapped around the DNA. It's how the symbiotes communicate information about their host to the larger hive. Now that little piece is referred to as the codex. And so someone came upon the idea that if you were to take those little pieces of codex and put them all in one place, that would reconnect them to the hive, and maybe, just maybe, that person could talk to God, maybe even wake him up. And so Eddie Brock and his son Dylan are walking through New York, and Eddie's got an idea to keep Dylan safe. Dylan's asking questions, and namely, who's trying to collect the pieces? Carnage, who, yes, was once a man, who's been resurrected by a cult that worships Null. It's also explained that Cletus Cassidy is the worst serial killer to ever walk the earth, a body count that only dictators and plagues can dream of. And so, but Eddie's trying to get Dylan someplace that he knows will be safe, even though he doesn't like the idea. However, turns out that Venom is now being accused of killing a bunch of people at Rikers Island. However, it was actually Carnage who did the deed. But it turns out they're being followed. So Eddie and Dylan go to the subway. However, Cletus is waiting for them and pushes the two onto the tracks. And when following them was actually the symbiote costume, currently separated from Eddie. And so the symbiote saves Eddie and Dylan to reconnect. And then Carnage appears. There's a bit of a fight, a very one-sided fight, because Carnage is a bit more powerful than he was before. But Eddie electrocutes Carnage and makes good his escape. The symbiote takes basically to repair the damage to Eddie's body. The symbiote puts Eddie into something of a coma while they make their way to the bad idea that Eddie was telling Dylan about earlier. That bad idea being the apartment of Peter Parker. And so we begin chapter 2, The Godson. Eddie, Dylan, and Spider-Man talk things out. Dylan's not a fan of Spider-Man, it turns out. Eddie explains his relation to Dylan and what's going on. It turns out that a mass grave has been unearthed in northern New Jersey. Authorities believe, however, that the intricate way it was created makes the believe that whoever created it wanted it to be found. Victims, some victims have actually been dead for months, even years, before being exhumed and placed there. Each body has had the spine removed. Some of the victims' identities they know of include Angelo Fortunato, the son of the infamous crime boss Don Fortunato, and several key players in the now defunct Life Corporation, and the body of none other than General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, which is being taken back to West Point National Cemetery. Eddie explains to Spider-Man that the mass grave is a message from Carnage to Venom. As they're leaving, a couple of two-bit robbers show up to rob the place, and, well, yeah, it's like, oh crap, Spider-Man's here. Spider-Man continues his conversation with Eddie while beating up the two robbers and webbing them to the wall. Turns out, though, that Eddie's got a friend who could maybe help them with a machine that can extract the various codices. And so they make their way to the Maker, who it turns out built a machine 35 days ago. Nice little nod to Watchmen, I gotta say. Spider-Man gets to meet the Maker for the first time, and, well, he hadn't gotten the memo about there being an evil, younger Reed Richards from an alternate reality. Turns out that back during during Norman Osborn's run as the Red Goblin, however, he infected Normie Osborn, Peter Parker's godson, with the Carnage symbiote. And so they figure, hey, but they're not. The idea is Maker's going to test it on Normie, but they want to make sure it works on someone that's, not a kid that hasn't done anything wrong. And so we move on to Chapter 3, The Long Red Dark. At Ravencroft Institute for the Criminally Insane. Turns out that, they're going after Osborn. They're going to take Osborn to the Maker and remove the Codex with the help of John Jameson. However, something takes over John and he fires, setting off the alarm, and Carnage has already shown up and starts handing out symbiote pieces to the various people, to the various inmates. Also, it turns out that after his run as the Red Goblin, a piece of Cletus Cassidy infected Norman Osborn, to the point where Norman thinks he is Cletus. Has all of Cletus' memories, all his hate, and all his murderous insanity. Yeah. And so, it appears Eddie manages to take down the alarms, which calms the symbiote. However, Carnage and his new merry batch of symbiotic thugs are on their way. And so, Venom deals with the symbiotes while Spider-Man has to deal with trying to get Norman out. Getting Norman out. However, doesn't entirely go according to plan. And Norman is once again carnageized. And that is where the issue ends. And in, I guess it would be 3 weeks, we'll be getting issue 2 of Absolute Carnage, with Absolute Carnage one-shots and tie-ins in the meantime. And this is probably going to be the last time that Absolute Carnage is done as part of the Spider-Man related titles for the World Week. Anyway, all that out of the way. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal are in the description box down below. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and even comment. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put up new content. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.